That's what I am too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc.
Shabbat Shalom. Are we live? All right. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody here. Shabbat Shalom, everybody joining us virtually. And glad you're here. It's been an interesting week. The good part about it is I'm meeting new people and making connections for the temple, and that's really good. The interfaith group is starting to do more stuff, so that's really terrific. And we will begin with a song on page 11, second from the bottom of the page. Ki yashmir Shabbat el yishmereni, Ki yashmir Shabbat el yishmereni, Oti leonea beino uveini, Oti leonea beino uveini, Ki yashmir Shabbat el yishmereni. Page 18/136. Okay. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu Ladonai B'nai Elim, a psalm of David, ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings, ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. All right. Let's move ahead now to page 26/144. Oh, thank you. All right, I'm glad you spoke up. Mary Beth, and you even reminded me shortly before. Let's go to page 3 and 2. Pages 3 and 2.
I told you we had a new rabbi, and who knew?
Yeah,
He does this.
and look. Here, you gotta light the lighting candle, otherwise how are you gonna light the candles? That makes sense, right? Okay, so pages 3 and 2. Oh, yes. No, you have different pages. It looks like
121. In the other book.
121. You're right. You have the larger book. 121 and 120. All right, and look that way at the camera.
Okay.
Do that one, and then this.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner Shabbat.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Now it's Shabbat. Thank you, Mary Beth. Yeah, good. All right. Now we can continue our service on page 26/144. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabbah v'yamal divrach v'ritei v'yamlik malchutei b'chayekonu v'yomecho u'chayedeko ben Yisrael bagala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam me'amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei Nikudasha Rihu Le'ela Minko Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiram Yama V'imru Amen. We continue with Baruchu, our call to worship on page 28/146. We rise. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai Hamivorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamivorach le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Page 31/149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ari Harabi. Page 33. And beginning in the middle of the page, responsibly. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Then this, holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Pages 35 and 34, or vice versa, or 153 and 152. Shema Yisrael, 46/154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol melodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבת על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Page 38, 156. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us, together. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyous. Page 40, 158. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilo, oseh feleh, nora tehilo, oseh feleh. Malchutecha Ra'uvanecha, Bokei Ayam, Livnei Moshe Miriam, Zeh Anu ve'amru, Adonai Yimloch, Adonai Yimloch, Le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Page 42, 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 44/162. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei shah, v'korei oneg shahabat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei shah, v'korei oneg shahabat. Mekadashei Shavihi Shahabat, Kulam Yisbu, Mitamgu Mituveka Shahabat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat, V'hashvi Ratzita bo V'kidashto Shahabat, Chemda Yamim Moto Karata Shahabat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat. Zecher Lema'aseh Bereshit Shahabat, Zecher Lema'aseh Bereshit Shabbat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat, Yismechu V'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shahabat. Page 47/165. Almost at the bottom of the page, we read that every word of one's prayer should be like a rose that is picked from a bush. One gathers rose upon rose until a bouquet is formed and can be offered to God as a beautiful blessing. Tefillah begins on the facing page 46/164 and will continue on consecutive even-numbered pages. We rise. Adonai Sefatita Ufia Gita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevii geulah livnei bneihem, l'ma'an shemo me'ahava, melech chozer u'moshia u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מנהיג ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעלוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You may be seated. The top of page 55/173. May these hours, rest and renewal, open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. Together, may all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashamas. Page 57/175. Say Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, ever-present one. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shodcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Page 59/177. In the middle of the page. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'ed le'odo. Page 60/178. Shalom Raha al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Raha al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Raham al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Raham al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. Shalom Raham Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We take a moment for silent prayer. Oseh shalom bimramah, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al 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 kol Yisrael. Our service continues with prayers for the congregation, the community, and beyond, beginning with Misha Beirach, a prayer for healing, and that can be found on page 253/371. And for healing of the body, for healing of the spirit, for those here seeking healing, for those joining us virtually, and for our loved ones that we think of when we say and sing our Misha Beirach prayer. And we especially include this evening Elise Bader, Lucy Karen, Kenny Elliott, Rhonda Goldman, Renee Gordon, Dan Griedman, Grady Holly, Margaret Gerstville Lamb, Dave Robinson, Ron Rothschild, Harry Singer, Lauren Victor, and Debbie Weiner. And if anyone would like to add someone for healing,
Alan Bowie. Kathy Falcon.
Robert Sachs and Carol Goldstein.
for all of them, and all those we're also thinking of at this particular moment, in the middle of the page. Misha be'erach avotenu mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha be'erach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal with a prayer for the state of Israel. And our prayer can be found on page 259/377. Praying especially for peace on all our borders. Avinu Shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael Legoalo. Together, O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield us beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. And together we say, Amen. So, a story, as I found it, this story was told in the first person by the person to whom it happened. So I will tell it to you in his words first, and then I'll tell you who told it. In the summer of 1966, when I was about 12, not me, the person who told the story, my family moved to Northwest Washington. We moved from a mostly black neighborhood to an entirely white neighborhood, and I remember to this day, years, decades later, what happened on that first day. I remember sitting with my brothers and sisters, there were 5 of us, on the front step of our new house as the movers carried in the furniture. I remember looking up and down the street at these big houses and seeing the people pass by. None of them said hello to us. I remember sitting there thinking that we were going to hate this neighborhood. I knew that we were not welcome here. I knew that we would not be liked here. I knew that we would have no friends here. I knew that we should not have moved here. And then, all of a sudden, from across the street came this wonderful shout, "Welcome!" It was a woman coming from home from work across the street. And a few minutes later, this woman came over to our house with a huge tray of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches and some ice cream. Her name was Sarah Kestenbaum. She welcomed us to the neighborhood. She and her family became our very good friends. She was the first Jewish person that I had ever gotten to know well in my life. And her family also gave me the first real example of a deeply religious family, of a family that tried to live their religion while keeping a foot firmly grounded in the real world at the same time. But the thing I remember most about that experience was the taste of those cream cheese and jelly sandwiches and that ice cream. That is the story. I share it with you as a short, simple story, but this man remembers what happened to him that day, even now, decades later. That moment changed his life. It gave him a sense of belonging in a neighborhood where he began feeling very out of place. It made him realize, at a time when race relations in the United States were very tense, that there could be relationships that were better than those he knew of. Over the years, he learned to admire much about the woman who lived across the street. But it was that first spontaneous act of greeting that became rooted in his memory. It broke down a wall of separation and turned strangers into friends. Now comes the surprise in this story. Do you know who this young child was? His name was Stephen Carter, and he would later become a professor at Yale Law School. He eventually he wrote a book about what he learned that day, and the book is called Civility. Stephen Carter tells the story of how the woman who lived across the street welcomed him that day, and he says that he later found out that what she did is called Hachnasat Orchim in the Jewish tradition, and it goes all the way back to Abraham in Torah on this Shabbat. He says that this kind of kindness is no longer very common in our society, and people have locks and double locks and alarm systems on the entrance to their homes, and they look upon a stranger as a threat. He says, nothing in contemporary secular culture calls on us to give up anything valuable for anybody else. Only religion offers a language of selflessness that enables believers to treat their fellow citizens as fellow passengers on the ship of life. But even if religion is the engine of civility, it has too few serious practitioners nowadays, which is why those who are moved by it to really care about their fellow human beings are so special. He writes, I learned the truth in 1966, and to this day, I can close my eyes and feel on my tongue the smooth, slick sweetness of the cream cheese and jelly sandwiches and the ice cream I gobbled up on that hot summer afternoon. That was the day I learned that a single act of genuine and unassuming civility can change a life forever. Stephen Carter became a distinguished legal scholar. His name used to come up whenever there was an opening on the Supreme Court. His scholarly books are studied in law schools everywhere, and his popular books have made bestseller lists many times. Sarah Kestenbaum and her husband, Lionel, went on Aliyah, and she taught for many years at Hebrew University School of Social Work, while he taught Hebrew at the Hebrew University Law School. So why do I tell this story on this Shabbat? Because this is the Shabbat that we read the Torah portion called Vayera, which begins with a story of how Abraham practiced hospitality in his day. In the story, 3 strangers went by, and Abraham rushed to greet them and urged them to come inside and have something to eat. And then he rushed to the herd, took a calf, tender and choice, and gave it to a servant boy to prepare. And then he ran to the tent and asked his wife Sarah to prepare choice flour and make cakes for these guests who were just a moment before strangers. And then Abraham stood over the strangers and served them while they ate and drank. The story is nice enough, just as it is in the Torah, but our rabbinic sages who interpret the Torah love this story so much that they embellished it in every way that they could. Let me give you a few examples of how they enhance the story. The text says that Abraham was sitting at the entrance to his tent when he saw 3 strangers. The Midrash says that he had entrances on all 4 sides of his tent so that he could look out in all directions just in case someone would come by, and then he could welcome them and invite them inside. The text says that Abraham ran quickly in order to greet them, and then the Midrash says that Abraham was just recovering from surgery in the last Torah portion with his circumcision, and yet he ran as quickly as he could in order to welcome strangers. The text says that Abraham asked them to come inside and promised to give them a little water and a morsel of bread, and then when they came in, he served them a sumptuous feast. The Midrash says that we should all learn from his example to promise a little and do a lot instead of the opposite, which is often our pattern. The Midrash says that Abraham treated them with great respect and reverence. The Midrash says that this was the way Abraham treated every stranger who came his way. And they tell a wonderful story to prove it. They say that once Abraham invited a stranger to come inside and serve him a sumptuous meal, and when the meal was over, Abraham invited the old man to recite the grace after meals. And much to Abraham's shock, the old man said a prayer thanking his God for the food that he had eaten. Abraham was offended. How could someone dare pray to a false god in his tent? He drove the man out for having desecrated his tent by praying to a pagan god inside it. And then God appears to Abraham and says, "If I have been able to put up with this old fool for so many years, couldn't you have put up with him for just one meal without insulting him?" And there Abraham realized that what he had done was wrong, and so he chased after the old man, apologized to him for having been rude. The story shows tolerance and respect for other ways of worshiping God that the sages had, and that they read this back into the story of Abraham. And there are more stories like this in the Midrash. One Midrash points out how many times the phrase Abraham ran is found in this story. He runs to greet the strangers, he runs to get the food, he runs to tell Sarah that they have company, he runs again and again in the story. And from this, the sages derive the lesson that it's not enough to just be hospitable to the stranger. One must be eager and enthusiastic in the way one is hospitable to even a stranger. And the list goes on. On almost every line, the biblical story, the sages of the Midrash add a comment that elaborates and expands on what the Bible says. And it is clear that when you read these comments, that the sages were in love with the mitzvah, the commandment of hospitality. And so they added to the biblical count in order to make clear how devoted to doing this mitzvah Abraham was. And they did it for another reason, so that we might be devoted to this mitzvah too, and so that we might not only practice hospitality, but do it eagerly and enthusiastically, as did Abraham. Abraham would love Stephen Carter's book on civility, and the story of how Sarah Kestenbaum welcomes an 11-year-old boy who moved across the street, together with his family, and made them feel at home by bringing them cream cheese and jelly sandwiches with ice cream on a hot summer day. The sages of the Midrash would have loved that story this day too. Who could have imagined that this woman who came across the street with a tray full of food was the first Jewish person that this young boy ever met? Who could have predicted that this young boy would grow up to be a great legal scholar who taught at Yale, and that he would write about what he learned that day 40 years later? And who would have imagined that Stephen Carter has become an Ohev Yisrael, a lover of Jews and Judaism, because of what happened to him on that day? What will you do when someone new moves into the neighborhood? What will you do when you see someone you've never met, say at the Oneg? If we've never met, you and me, or virtually you and me, and I say this to all of you who are listening, introduce yourself to me and to someone else, even if you're shy. Shabbat Shalom. Okay. Our service continues on page 282/586 with Aleinu, and Brent, if you'll help do the honors. We rise. Aleinu l'shabeach Adon hakol, v'ateit gidula liotzer b'reishit, she'unot hashamayim be'yos ha'aretz, u'mashav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, u'shkeinat uzo b'gapeh meromim, hu Eloheinu Eidod, va'anachnu korim, u'mishtahavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlakim, hakadosh baruch hu. Thank you. You may be seated. Page 287/591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Page 293/597. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And as I read our Temple B'rith Sholom list of remembrance, I invite you, when you hear the name of a loved one, to rise in recognition of your loved one. Our list begins with those who died in the past year. We remember Hazel Holly, Betty Hurwitz, Mary Bennett, Tammy Adams, Lee Estep, and this morning we laid to rest Stephen Bear. And we add to their names the names of those whose yard site we commemorate on this Shabbat: Eugene S. Barinholtz, Lindsay Brashear, Shirley Gordon, Marcus Heisler, Mina Hersheimer, Harry Karpman, Joseph Katz, Maurice J. Kellner, Margot Meyer, Rose C. Morris, Edward Herman Redlich, Fanny C. Reisman, Warren Rubnitz, Carrie Stern Salzenstein, Samuel Schultz, Richard Allen Stone, Terry Trieger, and Ruth M. Zeiger. We invite anyone who would like to add a name of someone you're remembering who died recently or whose yard site you're commemorating to also rise and share their name.
Rick Tate.
And with those who are standing, we rise in solidarity alongside them, turning to page 294/598, joining together in Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma v'yivrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayazon uv'yomechon uv'chayeda kol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah, v'rach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kedusha rifu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shamayim, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zikronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing, and together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Okay. So, here's a few things that are coming up for the congregation and the community. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a Torah study at 10 a.m. And between 10 and 1, you can drop off baked goods for the upscale rummage sale. Yes? The upscale sale, it says here. Okay. And then Sunday, November 17th, will be the upscale sale, or upscale rummage sale. But that'll be between 10 and 4. Okay. This Wednesday, I've been invited to offer a prayer down the street at the Phoenix Center, which houses some LGBT kids, especially some transgender kids and probably young adults who have been kicked out of their own homes, is going to host a candlelight vigil for what is known as the Transgender Day of Remembrance, remembering all the transgender people who have passed in the past year. And they've invited me to come say a few words at their candlelight vigil. So I felt very honored that they asked me to do that. And it's a wonderful thing. Again, condolences to those who are in mourning, the Bear family, Estep family, we'll have a Oneg Shabbat after this downstairs. And you can also, because you're here, preview the sale. I don't think you can buy anything today. You got to come back on Sunday if you want to purchase anything. But there's some really great stuff down there.
Grandma,
Yes.
this Sunday, November 24th, is the Thanksgiving service here at TBS.
That is right.
National.
That is right. That is incorrect. Thank you for catching that. Sunday, November 24th is for the Greater Springfield Interfaith Association. They're going to have a service here ahead of Thanksgiving, and I'll be part of it, but it's they like to host it in different places. It had a little bit of a bumpy history before I got here, and so they made sure when I went to my first meeting less than a month ago, everybody turned to me when they came to this on the agenda and said, "You're hosting it this year." They want to smooth out some of the bumpy parts in the agenda. So come help welcome them, and that should be a nice short service. Not long. Maybe some light refreshments, not quite like maybe one of our own eggs or wine and cheese before services. Thank you so much for that. That was wonderful. But something nice so that our neighbors can come in and have a good Thanksgiving experience. And I'll do my best to get that changed ASAP for the next time this is printed before the one time before that service. But I have posted about it, and I can share with you more about that service. If you're interested as well, please let me know. Okay, anything else? How about a closing song? Page 338, right in the middle of the page, maybe just the lower middle, a short but song that's maybe as relevant today as it was when it was written. As we think about Israel and the Jewish people, the people of Israel all over the world, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, 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 Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Binu Chai, Oda Binu Chai, Oda Binu, Oda Binu, Oda Binu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai. Shabbat Shalom. See you downstairs.